Hello makers, crafters and builders, my name is Nathan Wheeler, this is the Irish Maker Podcast, and now it is time to do something a little bit different. So in between episodes spanning the breadth of maker culture here in Ireland, we are introducing Minisodes. So Minisodes will be tight episodes discussing maker news, events, interviews, and visiting makerspaces and makers from across the world. This Minisode, we are discussing all things maker culture with representatives from one of Croatia's largest makerspace, Radiona. Radiona is a non-profit organization and citizen lab consisting of Makerspace, Hackerspace, a media art lab, a repair cafe, and it was all founded in 2011. Joining us for our first in-person episode, we're right here in the TOG Hackerspace. We've Jeffrey Roe, maker and co-founder of Dublin Maker, director of TOG, and a friend of the show, Deborah Hustic, who is a media artist, educator, creative director, PM, and the curator of Radiona. And last but not least, we have Goran Mahovlić, who has worked for years in a repair shop. He's the co-owner of Intergalactic.ie, which is a developer for low-power wireless technologies. Goran is also one of the technical coordinators of Radiona. So guys, let's just jump right into it. So obviously we recently here at TOG, we had a repair cafe here. We had all these different people in here. And you've obviously been part of the repair movement for quite a long while, and you've been part of the movement. So I want to bring up a big issue to talk about. I think we can all have a really good chat about, is the right to repair. So obviously from an EU perspective and an American perspective, we're a little bit further ahead than the Americans, but where do you see, Jeff, maybe you could explain to people what the right to repair is, because I think an awful lot of people don't really get it.
I guess it's a combination of a few items. It's to stop consuming things. That's in broad strokes. We're consuming too much as a society as a whole. We need to lower that down. So, the right to repair. It's not, I don't think it varies from person to person. I don't think it's just about repair, the right of self-repair. I think it's the right of allowing third-party industry, small repair shops in local towns, the right to have repair manuals. We have a TV that behind the camera here today that must be from the 1960s that someone brought in. There's a full repair manual available for it that you can see the circuit board and see what traces go where. That isn't produced with modern equipment, and I think there's no incentive for these manufacturers to produce this information for the public. And I think, unfortunately, it takes large institutions like the EU to bring in change at such a large scale, to force these giant multinationals who are as big as some countries, but only as a block together can we enforce them to do what's right. You know, everyone thinks it's a right decision. You know, we have all the stuff in place like copyright, intellectual property. All that stuff is there to protect these people from others making clones. You know, no one's going to make the clone on a wide commercial scale based on your repair manual that comes with it. So we need these large institutions to unlock this hidden knowledge that's in some design office from these corporations to allow us to repair and stop sending things to landfill. Before all this reduce, reuse, recycle, before those 3 R's, repair should be there first.
You're dead right, because there's so many items that we own that once they conk out, that's it. So I had a Hoover, recently enough, and back in the 80s and the 90s, there used to be Hoover repair people, and you would go and it would look like it was, you know, these places that, like, when you think back in time, they look old back then, but if you were back then, you'd be like, this place is old. You know, that's how old it was. But those places don't exist anymore. Like, when you think of getting a Hoover, you know, if you can afford it, you go get a Dyson, or if you can't afford it, you get a Dyson clone. And when it breaks, inevitably, you chuck it and you go get a new one. Even though we're spending hundreds, if not thousands, on these items, there's no real impetus to actually get them fixed.
I think at this stage, we only have 2 widespread things that we repair. So there'd be phones, tablets, devices. So you see those sorts of shops around the place. And also they're limited. We'll forget about cars for the moment. But white goods. You still see some places that repair dishwashers, washing machines, fridges. So you still see some of them, and that industry does support repairing more than our kind of other consumer electronics. White goods are traditionally easier to repair, and there's more knowledge out there.
Yeah.
But they're the only kind of two kind of commercial consumer goods that have people who are willing to repair them. But everything else, it's left to the Wild West.
Yeah, because like I guess when it comes to like phones, it's a wild west. I mean, like Apple are probably the most talked about in that if you want to get a replacement part for your iPhone, I mean, first off, you can't because they're just like
Exactly.
no, because obviously they've cornered the market with the manufacturer and they won't let you get access to the parts. And even now with the new EU rules, you can get access to the parts, but they cost the same as it would be if you got it off an Apple technician. So like, I mean, which is like at that point, if you're paying 300 quid for a new, I think it's the charging harness. No, you can't buy the.
The only thing you can't get is the USB charging port,
which is the thing that breaks the most.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Or like you can't get screens, and obviously you have like Lewis Rosman over in New York, who I think he's pretty famous he's probably the most famous person from the maker movement, not maker movement, the repair movement. And like he's hilarious. He just sits there and he just gives out for 40 minutes, and you're sitting there and you're like, yes, Lewis, you're dead right. But like in terms of you, like you've been involved in repair shops. How have you found it? Have you found things become more easier to repair or less easy to repair?
Yeah, actually, I started to work 20 years ago. You
remember when the shops were already
yeah. Actually, I was servicing the informatic equipment. So that was just like computer, and then we test the RAM and the CPU but those times we still had CRT monitors. So that was and printers and those stuff. So it switched from those CRT repairs when you have the actually component replaced and component repairs to a more advanced level like module repairs. Like on LCD you just have two modules that you remove and fix it. So when the LCD first come, we did some component fixes, but it's mostly hanged on the modules. So like on the computer, so like if RAM is not working, you just say it's not working and it goes to trash. And on the other job, I was there for I think six years. It was like in 1 year, just in Croatia, it was a big selling company, but in 1 year, I think it was about 5 tons of waste.
Oh, wow.
Actually, because lots of things go into the waste, and when you check that today, that you cannot buy one chip, and you are actually in a year you are just throwing away, I don't know how it's recycled or something, but you are just throwing away 5 tons of those chips. It's really insane. But yeah, it started like CRT. You had all the schematics and all the work. At first, those old TVs, they give the schematics to the public, but it just advanced to the level that only the service guy could have the repair manual. So for the CRT, so we worked for the CRT, and only the repair guy has the service manual. It was not available online, so it was but it actually advanced, and all the equipment actually was tightening down. So after that, I went to the ATM repair. So I worked for the repairing the ATM machines, printers inside the boards.
You ever just
Yeah.
I think you submitted to a crime.
And that was just a modular repair, and the schematics were super secret, so you needed to sign some NDA, and most of them were not available. You had the right to just remove the module and put the non-working module inside. So that was and all those things that shrinked. So after that I left to the point of sale devices repair, and those devices are really small, like the mobile phone or something, and there are schematics, but it's really hard and advanced repair. So you have BGA chips, and you need to remove it, reball it, and then take it back. So it was for the companies that are actually really a big companies, they don't want to invest in the repairs as a new unit. They get it on some scale, on 10-year scale, and it cost them less money, but at least directly than the
this
repair.
is something I was thinking about, is that obviously when we talk about an awful lot of consumer electronic goods, most of them are coming out of, Shenzhen. Like the vast majority of the electronics we come out of Shenzhen, and probably a handful of other places across the world. And obviously they're producing at such volumes and with such a degree of kind of low overheads that once it gets to the West and then we introduce, something is broken, and then you literally need to get someone in the West to then fix it. At that point, it can often just not be even economical to fix it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is it's a terrible way to be, because we're creating items so cheap, which is good in a way. It gives people access to technology, but we're making them so it's not even economical to fix it. Because the time it's worth invested in you and the machines needed. But as you get more expensive, it becomes more economical. But for average goods, there's so many stuff that I've looked at and I've been like, it's not worth even my time trying to fix it, even though it's probably a simple fix to someone who really knows what they're talking about.
I think maybe it's not worth your time, but if you look on the complete line of that product, that we end on the junk and the complete line, that it needs to create second good and that we are limited in resources, then it's worth. So that's the complete point. Yeah, if you only check the time of the, if you check just the time and the money it costs you to repair, maybe something is not worth to invest that time. But if you see complete line, I think it's worth to at least try to repair. That's the.
I think you're absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. I think the argument then is that we should be. I mean, you learn this in basic economics. The idea of a false economy, that if you buy a cheap bag and you only spend €10 on it and it lasts you 6 months, and then you have to replace it, and that's another €10, and then you have to replace it again, and now it's €11 because of inflation, and then you have to replace it again after another 6 months, and then it's €12, and at the end of it you spend €43. Or you could have just bought a really good bag for 30 quid and it would have lasted you 5 years. But at the same time, which is easy to say because it's an economic theory. But the problem is that an awful lot of people don't have access to the funds now to pay for the more expensive good, or something could happen to it. And it becomes such an investment that an awful lot of people can't access goods that are capable of being repaired. And I know a bunch of phone companies have popped up creating phones that are designed to be modular, and they haven't done very well. But no, that goes back to how competitive the market is. So it's difficult because you're trying to branch the line of accessible goods that are also repairable, that are also economical, that are also widespread. So it's a tough one, but then it scales because it's not just electronics, it's also cars, or it's also, the big example in the States that they're facing is John Deere tractors, where they can't get their tractors to run because John Deere shut them out if you try and repair your own tractor, which I actually cannot fathom. Like, I always think of tractors as just kind of like someone has hodgepodged that thing together and it's powered by, country music. But like, apparently not. Apparently tractors are incredibly complicated and incredibly expensive. Like, they can cost $500,000 for a big tractor. I did not realize that. So like, in terms of here, or in terms of Croatia, is there more emphasis on repairing goods over there than there is here? Because here, it's as I said, it's just, we would probably agree on this, it just doesn't happen very much. Although we've had some people in, but it's more sentimental objects that people are getting repaired. But is repairing more widespread in Croatia?
Well, historically, we did have that moment we did repair everything. So we had lots of TV repair shops and
DIY, but it was DIY, no?
Yeah. But lately, those, as technology gets complicated, and those shops are actually run by the old guys that are still knowing to repair some stuff, and it's lowering down. But that's why we actually started those repair shops, and to show people actually that most of the things they can repair by themselves, so they just need maybe screw or something. So yeah, and maybe some guidance. So when we do it, actually we have one or more guys. So it's me, but there are two more guys that are working spend a lot of time in the repairing. So we are there if they need help, but we actually want them to disassemble device. We show them what we think this device is, how it works. So we explain from what we see in that device when it's disassembled, or how to disassemble something. But they mostly do the repairing by themselves, because we need go back to the core of the people that wants to invest some time and to repair their. But the equipment is not only all the equipment. It's really, we have everything. So last time we repaired cars and
we checked the cars, which was. But there is this that you mentioned, this heritage that we have in this like DIY, you know, because in our craftsmanship, you know, the artisans, you know, in that sense. As for repairing and repairs per se, like this title and what is happening, you know, there is in Croatia, there has been for a long time this biciclo popravljaona, which is I don't know, bike repair.
There's a whole lot of words right there.
I'm not expecting that you should spell it. Yeah, no, it's okay. It's by the Zelena Akcija called organization Zelena Akcija. So they're maintaining this for like many years and doing like really very interesting projects, repairing it, educating audience, and also when there was a refugee crisis, they do this, or for people who are, you know, in marginalized, who are part of marginalized groups, they helped a lot about that. In Rijeka there is Reparai, which was founded by the local the municipality, you know, and basically the company, you know, that deals with the cleaning system and the trash, you know, and so they have a, you know, work, you know, 5 days, 8 to 4, and people come, they have workshops, and it's really nice that the public, as a public policy, that it started, you know, from the city. As an example, you were in Split, I think, when the local art academy tried it. So it's this that people have. It's not easy to find, you know, something as to sustain of the community of repairers. This is our community, but our people who also do exhibitions, who also hack things, who also, you know, do workshops and gather in the lab. So sometimes American system is completely different. It's differently, and I think how it started in Dutch in Sweden, it's completely different driven, and because it's really from the need. You know, and they have huge numbers of people who are actually coming and repairing something because there is a necessity of this person to have this in household. It's not repairing just a vintage radio that probably when you change capacitors, it might work or not. It's not. It's just the object of beauty that you can have, you know. But you have a passion in vintage. We have also couple of pieces of very nice vintage technology objects. We like that, you know. When we talk about repairing, I think it's just about what both of you mentioned about this consumerism. In that sense, I think we just need to see where these roads and how these roads will be developed in Croatia, because there is still a lot of this need, you know, to have the latest cell phone, to have, you know, the COVID crisis showed people a little bit different how they can do something at home because they were staying at home, literally. I mean, it's like really they were being there. And but at the other hand, still the younger generations, they like to buy stuff. They don't recycle so much. Let's say about from 18 to 30, 35 or something like that. But the kids, because we do a lot of education programs with kids, they have really very interesting point of view. They understand environmental topics. They understand this, that they want to make something with their hands. They want to repair. They want to make, you know, from a T-shirt, a bag. and even boys, girls, in between, whatever, is just like, it's completely different. You know, they really have some, they're knowledgeable. In that sense, let's say I'm optimistic about that, because I have really, but it depends on, maybe rural areas are different, you know, they will repair something, but also much easier to buy.
And I think that's a really good point, in that when we talk, as you said, about the life cycle of objects, we often think about things as, oh, it came from somewhere, now it's here, and then it's gone. Yeah. And we think about it from our point of view, and we don't think about it from the bigger point of, so hold on, if you've got like a piece of consumer tech, you probably have a number of rare earth metals in there. You also have, let's say, aluminum, then you've got copper wire and all the rest of it. All that has to come out of the gold and silver, which an awful lot of people don't realize there's a hell of an awful lot of gold and silver in our product. And like, that's not even getting into a conversation about where lithium comes from, because we're not even going to touch on that. But like, people don't really understand is that all that has to be mined. Like this is still very heavy industry, and then it has to be manufactured, and then it has to get shipped, and then it has to be introduced, and then you have it for a small length of time, and then it has to go somewhere. And then we talk about we assume things get recycled and it all works perfectly, but I don't know if we really actually know exactly where all our electronics go after they essentially conk out, because they've such a small lifespan. And that's something I've always kind of thought about, and where we can see the right to repair in the next 5 years. Like, will the EU become more aggressive on it, or will they keep up the slow approach? Because obviously with the new regs they brought in, it's very much focusing on white goods, which is a perfect place to start because they already have inroads in it. But how it'll react to, let's say, electric cars, that's kind of the big worry. And a big thank you to all our guests, Goran, Jeff, and Deborah. I want to thank our sponsors, Coding Grace, for their support, to Vicky Toomey Lee, who manages all the production for the podcast, and most importantly of all, to you, our very, very good listeners. You can follow the Irish Maker podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. If you look down in the description, you should see all the information. Click to follow for all our updates as they happen. You can listen to this mini episode of the podcast on Spotify, Apple, or Anchor, or watch it on YouTube. We release all new episodes every second Thursday, and every week we release the Maker News Roundup, where we keep you up to date on all the Maker news from across the island of Ireland. If you are a maker, crafter, or builder and want to be featured on the podcast, or have any maker news for us, please contact us on any of our socials. We're always looking to talk to interesting makers. Thank you so much for tuning in. That's the end of the show. And until next time, makers, keep making.